What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? And welcome to this week's Smackdown recap. And as always, in these recap videos, we are everything that you need to know about this important episode of WWE. I give my thoughts on the show at any point in the video. You guys can go down in the comments below and leave me your thoughts, whether that's leaving your thoughts on the show, debating my thoughts on the show, or leaving your thoughts on anything that you have to, talk about the world of professional wrestling. But as always, before we get anywhere into any video, be sure to help your boy out by liking the video, subscribe to the channel, turn post notifications so you never miss an upload. Go follow the socials, and you can find the links to those in the description of this video. That includes my Instagram account, my X account. Do all that helps me to tell me. Let's get you guys started in today's Smackdown recap. Alright, so we would kick off the show with Sami Zayn. So he comes out, makes his way to the ring, and pretty much soaks in the crowd. He's in his hometown, but then he gets down to business. He says that, to say that I would not have any momentum right now is pretty much absurd. I have tons of momentum right now going into tomorrow's match. Obviously, he has a match tomorrow at Saturday night's main event to figure out, who the number one contender will be at Royal Rumble to face, Drew McIntyre for the champion. So pretty much he says that to say that he doesn't have momentum is an absolute lie, because I am full of freaking momentum. And then that's pretty much all he gets to say before we would then see Trick Williams come out. And pretty much what Trick Williams tells Sami is that he is levels above him. Sami is levels below, Trick Williams, and Trick is just so much higher and so much better at, the art of wrestling than freaking Sami Zayn, basically. He tells him that, I'm the street where you're just the street corner type of thing, pretty much just really, dehumanizing, or just, really trying to, make Sami Zayn look like shit. Pretty much just downgrading Sami Zayn. Then he finally gets his way into the ring, and then he would tell Sami that, the difference between me and you is I get the job done, you don't get the job done. The last time you were here for a title shot, you lost, and that's the difference. I get the job done, you don't. And then we would hear from Sami, and he would tell, Trick, and he says, Trick, you are right. There is a big difference between, you and me, and that's that, I am levels above you type of thing, pretty much turning the tables against Trick. I am levels above you. You can be in this business for 5, 10, 15 years and you still won't, or you're lucky to be as half as good as I am. You're lucky even to make it to that long into your career type of thing. So pretty much Sami just turning the tables and telling, Trick, no, this is, I will be better than you, for as long as I'm in this business type of thing. It's going to be a while, if even possible, for you to even get to my freaking level. And then we would see Damian Priest come out, and what Damian Priest says is that, Trick, you've been on the show for about a month now, and all you've come out is done is this. And he mocks him and just says, all you come out here and do is talk. But last week, when me and you went face to face, you didn't say nothing. So I think that you're scared. And then you could see Trick standing there. He's like, scared, not scared, seeing his facial expression, and he's like, oh, Damian, you think I'm scared? All right, how about watch this? And then he pauses for a second, he grabs the microphone, turns around, and just clobbers Sami Zayn. Down goes Sami, and then him and Priest would then start fighting, because then Trick would go after Priest. We would see a brawl between them. Then Sami would try to get in on the mix and attack Trick, because Trick attacked him. Eventually that would lead to Trick getting both Damian Priest and Sami on the mat. Then Trick Williams would get out of there, because he knows once they get back up, he's gonna get his ass beat type of thing. So he gets out of there, and then pretty much what this, a pretty solid opener in my opinion. Not gonna lie, I do think this was a solid opener. That was really not too much to it, but it's cool that we are getting some build before the match, or some more build before the match tomorrow night in the number one contenders. So definitely a very solid opener here. Really enjoyed this one. So yeah, in my opinion, very solid opener to start off the show. All right, now we would jump into the Men's United States Open Challenge. Walking in as champion, obviously, Carmelo Hayes, and he would be facing Ilya Dragunov in this U.S. Open Challenge, man. Definitely not my favorite U.S. Open Challenge match from Carmelo Hayes. It was definitely hard fought, man, but 100%, that one, I believe it was last week, was when Carmelo faced Leon Slater. That was definitely my favorite U.S. Open Challenge from Carmelo Hayes yet. That match, absolutely freaking incredible. But tonight, it was definitely a hard-fought match, just definitely not like my cup of tea. I definitely would have liked more from this match. And in terms of what I mean by more, it's just like, I feel like I would have just preferred more of that, okay, let's say Ilya Dragunov hits his finisher, and it's like, oh my god, he's about to win, but then Carmelo kicks out. But then it's just like, we get like more of that. I feel like we didn't have. I mean, we definitely had that in this match, just not as much as I would like to, and I just didn't feel like the type of way that I did in like I said, that match with like Carmelo and Leon Slater. But still a very solid match, man. These U.S. Open challenges always hit in some type of capacity. This one definitely no different. It's just definitely not my favorite. I do prefer other U.S. Open challenge matches, that we've had in recent times than I do, of course, this one. But
Still a solid match, man. At the end, though, we would inevitably make it to where Ilya Dragunov is on the top rope, Carmelo's in the ring, and then The Miz would actually come out and he would help Carmelo by knocking off Ilya off the top rope, and then that would cost, Ilya the match. Carmelo would take advantage, get the win, 1, 2, 3. Carmelo does retain, and then, Carmelo was pissed off at The Miz because, he wanted a clean match, and, Miz, ruined that. So, Carmelo would go after The Miz, and then Carmelo, would get The Miz out of there. So, a bit interesting to see why The Miz would try to help Carmelo. A bit interesting, not gonna lie, because they literally were feuding, and then now Miz is trying to help him back out. So, bit interesting. Maybe Miz kind of actually understands the potential in Carmelo, and maybe he's trying to get back with him. We'll see what happens though. But as far as this match, my end, like I said, definitely could have been better, but still, it was very solid match. Still a very good match too, man. Definitely a very good match. Just definitely some other things I would have liked to see, more of in this match for sure. All right, so now we would jump into Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green. And as you can expect, man, Jade Cargill is going to win this one. Really not going to talk too much about this match. Really not much to talk about in general, man. I mean, it's your top champion, your top women's champion going after Chelsea Green, who is a champion of AAA. Obviously, Jade's going to win. That's exactly what happened. Wouldn't necessarily call it a squash, but, it was pretty much an easy match for Jade Cargill, as it's been for the past few weeks. So, really nothing crazy there. In the post-match, though, it was cool. We would see Jordynne Grace, step up once again to Jade Cargill, and she would tell her, I have declared my spot in that Women's Royal Rumble, but, you're already in the ring. You're already warmed up. We are here right now. We can do this. Pretty much, we can do this here right now. We can go one-on-one at it for that title right here, right now. Jade Cargill would leave the ring not answering, Jordynne Grace, and then that was it, man. That's really it. Not much else to talk about here. What this tells us, well, it just continues to tell us that, Chelsea Green is obviously an easy opponent for Jade Cargill, and, we're just building more for, inevitably the feud between Jordynne Grace, or inevitably until we get the match between, Jordynne Grace and Jade Cargill. That's really all you got to know here. All right, now we would jump into Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis. And in this match, Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis from the Wyatt Six would defend their tag team championships. And this match overall was very solid. But one thing I really want to talk about is the use of the lantern in this match, man. I really think that it's all falling into place, man. Obviously, as we know, the lantern from the Wyatt Six, Bray Wyatt's lantern, has been confiscated by Solo Sikoa and the MFTs, and it played a great role and played a really great, or it really helped improve, what is being built upon the storyline. It really helped, add just a whole nother piece to it, in my opinion, man. So we're gonna kind of break that down. So overall, solid match, like I said, but about around like the middle stages to the end, or just towards the end of the match, we would see a point where Uncle Howdy, he's got Tala Tonga, who had the lantern at the time, and then Solo Sikoa would come up and then deliver the Samoan spike that would take out Uncle Howdy. And then meanwhile in the ring, we would see Tama Tonga on Dexter Lumis, but Solo Sikoa would take the lantern and he would clobber Dexter Lumis. Then that would allow Tama Tonga to get the upper hand. And 1, 2, 3, we do have new tag team champions, that being the MFT. But why I say that, the freaking lantern played such a great role in this match and really helped improve this storyline even more and helped further it along, its path, is because it really helps, represent that idea where the lantern is like, it's like the Wyatt Six need the lantern. Without the lantern, they're nothing. Without the lantern, they cripple. Without the lantern, they don't rise to power. I really think, that's why, like, the lantern played such a vital role, is because, since the Wyatt Six don't have the lantern and they lost the title, it really helps play that. It really helps, elevate the fact that, the Wyatt Six really truly do need that lantern. They need that power from Bray Wyatt. They need that power, and they're really playing that in very freaking well, man. So definitely want to take note of that. I think that is a very, the role of the lantern, that the role of the role that the lantern has just is so freaking awesome, man. It really helps, boost the storyline and boost this feud even more, man. So that is very freaking awesome. Really think the lantern just played such a vital role, and it played its role very freaking perfectly, in my opinion. Overall, though, still solid match. Like I said, we do have new champions, man, but Definitely can't wait to see more. And what happens to the Wyatt Six, man? How are they Wyatt Six going to continue to cripple? Are they finally going to get the Lantern back? We'll see what happens, but I'm definitely starting to get even more intrigued in this storyline as it goes on. But definitely solid stuff here tonight. All right, now we would jump into Nathan Frazier versus Johnny Gargano, and honestly, this is just a match that I just personally don't care for. There's just other things that, I'm more interested in than I am this actual, feud and this match in general. That's not saying this match was terrible. I'm just something that I'm not personally interested in. But overall, still, like I said, it was still a decent match. I just really, not something I can really get super interested in because I just really don't care for the feud and what, they're trying to build with that whole thing with, Axiom's mask and all that, because obviously, which actually played a role in this match because as we know, DIY, Johnny Gargano and his partner, Tommaso Ciampa, they did steal one of Axiom's masks and they're pretty much using it to, kind of just, against, Fraxium. So, but in this match, we would see that mask be used by actually Axiom. So Axiom at the end of the match, he would take, or towards the end of the match, he would take the mask and he would put it over Johnny Gargano's wife or Candice LeRae. She would put it, or he would put it over her head, and she was pretty much just kind of like left, can't see, type of thing. And then we would see, her accidentally hit Johnny Gargano, which then would allow Nathan Frazier to pick up the win. 1, 2, 3. Nathan Frazier wins, and then Fraxium gets back hold of the mask, but not for too long. And then, because roughly about 10 seconds they hold it, but then it is once again swooped up by Candice LeRae, who takes it, then runs out of there. So the mask still in the hands of Johnny Gargano and obviously Candice LeRae and Tommaso Ciampa. And Fraxium or Nathan Frazier may have won this match for Fraxium, but still don't have that mask. So you really you win, but you didn't at the same time, kind of thing there. Overall, though, still, like I said, it was still not a bad match, but just nothing, like I said, that I really care for. Not gonna lie, I just don't really care for whatever they're trying to build here. I mean, really don't. So can't really, say that I do like to enjoy, the feud, the storyline, but because I really don't. Yeah, and then that's really my only thoughts here. All right, now we make our way over to Drew McIntyre. So he would come out and pretty much he would touch up a little bit on Cody Rhodes, just pretty much saying that Cody, even though at this next at Saturday night's main event, even if you beat Jacob Fatu tomorrow night, pretty much you're still at the back of the line, you're still in that Rumble, you're still gonna have to win that for the third time, and good luck, buddy. And pretty much that's all Drew McIntyre has to say to Cody. But he puts that in the past. Now he's on towards what is upcoming. He talks about tomorrow night and the Fatal 4-Way to determine the number one contender who faces McIntyre at Royal Rumble, at the Royal Rumble. So he starts it off and he talks about Trick Williams. He says, yeah, good job, pretty much, the rookie. He tells him, go get him, kid. That's pretty much all he says to Trick Williams. So pretty much just saying, that guy's he's a rookie. He ain't got shit, but go get him, kid, type of thing. So then we would see him go on and he would talk about Damian Priest. He says, the guy that I wasted a year of my time here with, the guy that I, wasted so much valuable time with, basically. I just wasted it all with him, and pretty much saying that, if I see him at the Rumble, it's going to be the last time he pretty much steps in a ring because he's going to end him. And then he goes on to Randy Orton. He says, well, Randy Orton is pretty much civilized. He's a civilized Randy Orton. He's nothing like he used to be. He's pretty much light work type of thing, is kind of what Drew McIntyre talks, how he talks about Randy. And then he would go on to the final opponent, or the final possible opponent for him at the Royal Rumble, that being Montreal's own, that would be Sami Zayn. He talks about Sami. He says that, Sami, you come out here and say that you don't want to be a failure, but yet you come out here and fail time and time again. In fact, you're a failure to many people, but you're also a failure to your own family. He says that, as soon as your son first opened his eyes and looked up and saw that Sami Zayn was his dad, you failed. You were a failure. So pretty much some harsh stuff towards, each and every one of them, but definitely towards Sami, man. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Maybe Sami could win, seeing as, Drew McIntyre has already said all that, man. So it's going to be interesting to see. Who's going to win? We'll have to wait and see, but definitely a crazy promo from McIntyre as far as, how he talked about Sami Zayn. That's going to be interesting. Is Sami Zayn going to be so freaking, furious that, he's just going to put it all on the line tomorrow night at Saturday night's main event, and he's going to, come out successful and go on to face McIntyre, man? But we'll have to see. But this promo from McIntyre, absolutely amazing. Great heel work from McIntyre. Loved this promo. Loved what he said towards Sami Zayn. That is just insane, to be honest. But overall, great promo, great stuff. Great heel work from McIntyre. Overall, very solid stuff here. All right, now we would jump into a 6-woman tag match. So we would have on one side Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. On another side, we would have Julia and Kiana James. And on the third and final side, we would have Nia Jax and Lash Legend. The winner of this match, the winner or the whatever team wins this match, is crowned number 1 contender for the women's tag team champions. I'm gonna be honest, really don't care for this match. Really just didn't care for it in general. Honestly, I just really don't care about the women's titles. So, and obviously this match predicts, it tells us who's going after the titles next. I really just don't care for the women's tag team titles. I also just really, like I said, I don't know. I just really not care for this match, man. Didn't really care for it as soon as I knew, it was going to happen tonight. So, it's whatever, I really just don't care though. So we're going to sum this one up pretty quick. We get to the end. We see Lash Legend deliver her finishing move to Alexa Bliss. Then Charlotte Flair comes in, spears Lash Legend, and that allows Kiana James to sneak in the ring off of Lash Legend's finisher to Alexa. 1, 2, 3, and then Julia and Kiana James are your number 1 contenders. So that's, I guess, interesting. Sure. I mean, if you're interested in this, then maybe it's interesting for you. I'm just saying, I personally just really didn't care for this match. Don't really care for, really. I'm not saying that I don't care for these superstars. I'm not really saying that, but I am saying I just don't really care for the match. As a whole. I really just don't care for the women's tag team titles. Like I said, man, just don't. So, and yeah, there's really not much else to it. Not much else I can say. Your number 1 contenders, Julia and Kiana James, feel what you feel, but I know damn sure I really just don't care. All right, we have finally made it to our main event of the night, which did take place between Trick Williams versus Damian Priest. So this is obviously, these two men going at it before their match tomorrow night in the Fatal 4, as we mentioned previously. And obviously the winner of that match tomorrow at Saturday night's main event will go on to face Drew McIntyre at the Rumble. But tonight we would see Damian Priest go one-on-one with Trick Williams before their match. And overall, pretty solid stuff, man. Pretty solid, really nothing too crazy at the same time, though. About halfway or so through the match, we would see Sami Zayn come out. He would kind of just be watching on the guide on the sides for now, but then he would eventually end up getting involved because there would be a little bit later on after he would come out, he would get attacked during a move by Trick Williams. So that would get Sami, Sami would get, attacked by Trick. Then we would get back in the ring with Trick and Priest, and then finally we would see Sami Zayn come in the ring and he would start attacking Trick Williams. So this match does end in a DQ, and then it kind of just ends in like a little bit of like a small little fight. Damian Priest is like, yo, I told you not to come out here. Why are you out here? Then Sami Zayn punches him, starts laying in the punches. Inevitably from that, Trick Williams would stand tall, but then we would also see Randy Orton come out, who is the fourth member that is going to be, who is the fourth, superstar that is going to be in tomorrow night's match for the Fatal 4-Way. So he would come out, he would RKO Trick Williams, he would taunt the crowd, do his pose, and then he would finally hit an RKO on Sami Zayn as well. So Randy Orton would inevitably stand tall, man. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow night, man. Sami Zayn also has like a good chance at winning this because, and I say that because it's like, Sami Zayn, the shit that was talked from by Drew McIntyre about his kids, man, it makes me think, maybe Sami Zayn's gonna win because he's gonna be, like I said, he's gonna be, with all this built up aggression, he's gonna release it all tomorrow night, and he's gonna fight his way through tomorrow night. But then at the same time, Randy Orton has been sitting back mainly on the sides, kind of just watching on, playing it slow, playing it casual, playing it, safe, and maybe that might be the way that, Randy Orton wins tomorrow night. So I feel like it's either going to go to Randy or Sammy, so we'll have to wait and see, but overall, I'm definitely excited for that match tomorrow night. It should be awesome. This match right here in general, though, pretty freaking solid stuff, man, not gonna lie, pretty solid, so yeah, overall, that's really all you got to know here tonight in our main event of SmackDown. Alright, well, that is going to wrap up this week's SmackDown recap. As always, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, see our most upload, go follow the socials. You can find links to those in the description of this video. That includes my Instagram account, my X account. As always, be sure to leave me your thoughts on how you guys did feel about this episode of SmackDown. Also, as I mentioned previously, be sure to, feel free, debate my thoughts on how I felt on the show. All that down below. Just leave me however you guys felt about the show, debate my thoughts, whatever you feel like, whatever you want to talk about the world of professional wrestling. Leave it all down in the comments below. As always, like I said, do all that, follow the socials, subscribe, like the video, turn on post notifications, and I will catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.